Hey Giants fans and football fans, welcome to the GiantsGrit channel, your YouTube fan channel with views and reviews of the New York football Giants without all the theatrics. Well, here we are, week 16. The Giants are 2-13. So obviously we have the first pick of the draft if the season ended today. They're the worst team in the NFL. I've been watching them since 1979, and this is their worst season thus far. Even records aside, I mean, it just looks hopeless, at least with the front office that they have here. I seriously hope that they fire the GM and the head coach. They're responsible for this. So I had high hopes for them a couple of years ago, but they improved the roster talent a little bit. But at the most important thing is they did not do well. 2 of their 3 drafts were not good, and they had a lot of high picks in them. They made more errors in free agency than good. I mean, no one is expecting them to bat 1,000, but you got to get more right than you get wrong. And unfortunately, the Giants have gotten a lot more wrong than right, at least under general manager Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll. So I'll make another video after the season's over on my thoughts on them. I kind of already gave away what I think about them, but I'll go into more detail. So as for the review of this game versus the Atlanta Falcons, they lost 34-7. It was 17-7 at the half. The reason for the loss is, number one, bad quarterbacking. I think Drew Lock caught the Daniel Jones disease. I mean, Lock was not a very good quarterback, even a mediocre quarterback himself, but I thought he was better than Daniel Jones. Certainly has better arm talent. He still has better arm talent. But he caught the Daniel Jones flu or disease with the looking at his primary receiver throughout the whole play, not wanting or daring to throw down the field on any intermediate or deep passes, and drifting to his right, even when he's got a good pocket, he just needlessly drifts to the right. And then zero, and I mean zero pocket presence. So, I don't know, it just seems like every Giants quarterback, especially Drew Lock and the departed Daniel Jones, and Tommy DeVito, just all 3 of them seem to do that. That's why Tim Boyle looked better last week. So, anyway, besides the bad quarterbacking, bad play calling as well. I mean, Brian Daboll called 44 pass plays to 14 run plays, and it was only 17-7 at the half. As a matter of fact, it was a little bit closer than that the first half. Also, take away the pick sixes. There were 2 pick sixes. Well, anytime a team throws 2 pick sixes, their chances of losing are very high. But Giants were very much in it, and you could almost say they were outplaying Atlanta for a little while. They had a 7-0 lead going into the second quarter. Why they didn't run it more is just beyond me. Anyway, so Drew Lock, again, he played terrible. Not that I was expecting great things out of him, but I figured, well, he was healthy finally. This would be his 3rd game. There was no doubt as to whether he was starting or not, and going up against an average team in Atlanta. And Atlanta was having quarterback problems of their own, with Kirk Cousins slumping, and they were going to start rookie Michael Penix, his first start. So the Giants had somewhat of a chance, at least, with their remaining three games in the season. So, but nope, that chance lasted for the first quarter. So besides a bad quarterbacking play, bad play calling, 2 pick sixes, which greatly reduces your chance of winning. Atlanta ran the ball really well. Bijan Robinson's really a good running back. Yes, he got good play from his offensive line, but he's just so smooth. His running back instincts, they're just really top notch. He's really an excellent running back, an excellent football player in general. He had 94 yards on 22 carries, but it seemed like he had more than that, and 2 touchdowns. he just played really well, and I would give him the game ball as well as Michael Penix. I think I want to say he was 18 of 27 for 200 plus yards. He had an interception, but that was off his tight end's hands. He basically he batted it and tossed it to the Giants corner, Cordell Flott, for Giants' only third interception of the entire season. So that's Drew Luck for you. So bad quarterbacking, broken record since game one. As far as the rest of the units, running backs, Tyrone Tracy, as I said, only had 7 carries for 26 yards. Looked good. I mean, his longest run was only for 7 yards, but they just got to feed him the ball. If you get stopped for no gain or a 2-yard gain, come back with it rather than taking your chances with Locke and the Giants' offensive line. Well, it's debatable whether they run block or pass block better, but certainly Evan Neal's a better run blocker, and Greg Van Rooten were, and they both played horrible games, but I'll get to the offensive line review in a moment. As far as the rest of the running backs, Devin Singletary had 4 carries for 12 yards, 3 yards a carry, and Eric Gray didn't get any carries. Singletary and Tracy have to be responsible for some of the pass pressure. There were no flat-out jailbreaks, but again, Drew Lock makes his offensive line look worse, just like Daniel Jones before him. Drew Lock makes his offensive line look worse than he is. There's a clean pocket, and he drifts. He'll drift to his right 90% of the time, and a couple other times he'll drift to his left, right when the tackle will be blocking his guy cleanly, and he gives the defender a straight run at Drew Lock. So again, brutal. But Tracy and Singletary are responsible for a few breakdowns in the pass protection, where Tracy looked good earlier in the year, and all the other games, this game he did not. So moving on to the wide receivers, Malik Neighbors, he had 7 catches for 68 yards. He looked good. He had a couple of illegal shifts, and he caught like 3 passes that were penalties, not just on himself, the 2 aforementioned shifts on himself, but there were a couple other penalties when he caught passes. So he would have had like 10 catches, but unfortunately those penalties. But you know what? I mean, there were some concerns, including from myself, about the whole attitude, the body language. He's a leader. He has to be. He's basically, if not, he's probably the second best player on the after Dexter Lawrence, and he's a rookie. So players are going to be looking up to him. He's a great player, and he's got to play 100% every single snap, and he's got to be, a leader in that and set an example and play as hard as possible. And I was a little worried that he would openly show his bad body language, would talk too much in the locker room when he was interviewed with the media. But I got to give him he played really tough. He was charging into players. He was doing his best to get yards after catch. So he hasn't given up, and I like the way that he showed and played tough. So, and now he set the Giants rookie record. He's got 97 catches, so he passed Odell and Saquon, that were both tied for, I believe, 91 catches as the the Giants franchise record. So Malik Neighbors playing well. I just hope going forward that he stays healthy, and get him a new quarterback with a better play calling. He's going to be quite the weapon in this league. So Wan'Dale Robinson had better than his usual. He had 7 catches for 62 yards. He usually has 4 or 5 catches for about 30 yards or so, but Wan'Dale looked good. Same thing, he's a solid player. He's got over 70 catches for the year. How he's held up for 15 games into the season, I don't know. With all the play calls, with him catching 5-yard passes, him running right at the sticks, a small guy, and he's getting laid out a lot by linebackers and DBs, and he manages to stay healthy. So kudos to Wan'Dale. Definitely one of the Giants. I would say one of the top 10 players on their roster. So looking forward to him playing in a better offense. Jalen Hyatt had 1 catch for 9 yards, and Darius Slayton had another catch for 21 yards. Not until the second half. So. Locked through so many passes, yet unfortunately Slayton and Hyatt didn't get any. So I don't know. Slayton's still a solid player. I don't expect him to be a Giant next year, but it's a shame because, him being the number 2 receiver, he should do some damage. And again, in a different offense under a better quarterback, he'd be doing a lot more damage. Hyatt, I don't know. Hyatt just regressed. I mean, he's still a young player, and I have high hopes for him, but this year was just not happening. Why we can't throw him a couple of deep passes a game, every game, is beyond me. So, again, that's on the coaching. Moving on to the tight ends, Bellinger, his 3rd game in a row, taking over for the injured Theo Johnson. He had 1 catch for 5 yards. Did not block very well this game. Also, Greg DeLoach, the recent pickup, he played some. He didn't get any targets this game. He blocked so-and-so. He managed to stay in front of his man on the few times that I got to watch him on the game tape. So, yeah, there might be something there. I think the Giants liked him beforehand, before the 2022 draft. So maybe next year he'll definitely can compete for a roster spot. Now, Chris Manhertz, he played well run blocking, but there was one that I saw on the game tape where he was isolated against our edge rusher pass blocking on the outside one-on-one. And of course he got beat, which you can't ask your tight end to do that. So again, that's on play calling. So now to the offensive line. As far as the offensive line is concerned, there were 3 sacks. Easily one of them was on Locke himself, and a couple of batted passes, and one of them I would at least blame Locke, including one that got the quick 6. Locke just seems to have 0 pocket presence, and damn, I really had high hopes for him because he has such really good arm talent, but it looks nicer when he's throwing it either incomplete or an interception. You see that arm talent. Unfortunately, he just doesn't read defenses or sense things. He doesn't have the it factor that good quarterbacks have. You can see Michael Penix easily outplayed him. Sure, he's got better players around him, but even the commentators, Moose Johnson, I have to agree, he was looking off safeties in coverage better than Drew Lock. Drew Lock was staring down his main receivers plenty of times yesterday. So, yeah, it's terrible. Moving on to the rest of the offensive line. Left tackle Jermaine Illuminaire played well. I thought he played well. He gave up a sack, and he did have an offsides penalty, but a holding penalty, I believe. But he was solid throughout the game. Left guard Jake Kubas, the rookie undrafted free agent, he looked pretty solid. He gave up some pass protection up the middle, but he was solid run blocking. JMS, the center, I thought he had a good game. Right guard Greg Van Ruten had a brutal game. He was him and Evan Neal both had terrible games. It's like the two of them put together can't pick up a stunt. It's like they never played together this game as well, too. They didn't seem to know what each other was doing. There were just some really bad plays. They played okay in some of the run blocking, but some of the pass blocking looked terrible. They both fell on the ground and just looked like they both had balance problems. So Greg Van Ruten is he's been pretty solid all year, so I just write this off as a bad game for him. Evan Neal, oh man, you cross your fingers that he could be better, but man, this is just happening way too much. I hope it's that he's getting healthy, but it's not like Atlanta has elite pass rushers, and this was just a bad game. So fingers crossed that Evan Neal can just somehow get it together. I think he needs to be moved to guard. A lot of commentators have mentioned that, including Moose Johnson, about how Larry Allen struggled as a left and right tackle and then became a Hall of Fame caliber blocker at guard. Not saying, and he said the same thing, not saying that Evan Neal can do the same, but man, I wish the Giants would do it because I could just picture him becoming a solid guard at worst with another team, and meanwhile the Giants can have him for 2 more seasons if they hopefully move him this offseason to guard. I know it may be a little too late now because they need him for right tackle. So, and that's it for the offensive line. Overall, though, they were okay. They weren't the reason the Giants lost the game. Moving on to the defense, the interior defensive line, after quarterback, was the reason they lost this game. I gave credit to Atlanta's offensive line playing well and Bijan Robinson just being the star running back that he is. But they were getting blown off the ball and they could not get off blocks to save their life, which allows offensive linemen and tight ends to get to the linebackers and get to the DBs. Hence, Atlanta runs for, 120, 130 something yards. And it was actually worse than that. And Pinnock's got all day to throw. 0 sacks, by the way. So Giants had, the pass rush pressure was very, very, very low. So, and interior offense, Garcia, Riley, and Chapman both had horrible games. They had like 1 tackle each. The only guy who seemed to play well was Corey Durden. He had 5 tackles, including 1 tackle for loss. There's some hope there that he can play well, but oh man, we need some D-line. And again, I blame the play calling as well. I didn't see any true 3-man lines with 3 defensive tackles. They're always playing only 2 big men going up against 5 big men. So we're always going to lose there. Even if Dexter Lawrence was still playing, they're always going to lose that. They did have Boogie Basham coming off the practice squad. He played, he had 3 tackles. I guess you could say he was a big man, but he's kind of a hybrid linebacker / defensive line. He's a versatile player, but he's a mediocre versatile player. Even below that, he's a journeyman who happens to be versatile. So, yeah, I don't expect him to be on the team next year. So, yeah, he's not a good player at all. So, moving on to the edge rushers, Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns did not have good games. Brian Burns had probably his worst game, I think, as a Giant. He had a couple of tackles. He had a quarterback hit or so, but yeah, usually he's all over the place. I don't know if he's kind of injured, but yeah, he did not play well at all. So it was easily his worst game. Kayvon Thibodeau didn't have a good game, but it was more along the cases of he was there, but he just missed a few tackles. I think the stats only show him missing 1 tackle, but no, he had a chance for a tackle for a loss where running back just bounced off him. He also had what would have been a sack for him, but where he just lost, quarterback got out of his grasp again. And he could have had a bad game, but a good stat game. There was one, too, where he tackled Penix behind the line of scrimmage, like kind of dove at his feet, got him from behind. I'm surprised it wasn't credited as a sack, but unfortunately for him, it just goes down as a tackle. So Tibbs has got to step it up. He seemed to be there, but I think with him, it's not a talent issue. I think it's an effort issue. I think he just needs to play with his hair on fire and go 100 miles an hour every single play. He's got the talent, no doubt about that. Come on, Thibodeau, you definitely got the talent. He's got to play better. I hope a new defensive coordinator, a whole new front office and coaching staff can get that out of him, because he'll be coming up on his fourth season in the league, and if he wants to get that 5th-year option, I'm hoping a new general manager and head coach can bring that, and probably defensive coordinator bring it out of him. So, and a better scheme probably wouldn't hurt either. So, as far as the backup edge rushers, Timon Fox had a couple of tackles. Didn't really do much of note, and Boogie Basham also played an edge when he wasn't playing on the line. It was kind of a hybrid thing. So moving on to the regular linebackers, off the ball linebackers, rookie Darius Moasu had 11 tackles, and he had a nice tackle for loss. So Moasu had a good game, arguably probably the best of all the defensive players. I like it. He's looking good. 2nd start in a row. I think he could be a solid player. Michael McFadden started with him and had 5 tackles. Again, looked like he was having his 3rd good game in a row, but unfortunately he got hurt late in the 2nd quarter. They said it was a stinger, and he got replaced by Ty Sumner, who didn't play bad as a backup player. Sumner is is a special teams player. He got 7 tackles, but again, a lot of it is down the field, and Moss's were too. But, that's the defensive line fault. But when, offensive linemen have had a steam coming towards your linebackers, when you want your linebackers running to the ball, not having to absorb blocks downfield from offensive linemen and having to evade them. So, yeah, unfortunately, the inside linebackers, those 3, played about as well as you can ask them for. Now moving on to the secondary, it was nice to see Deonte Banks was back, Cordell Flott was back, and Drew Phillips were back. And I was pleased with all three of them. Atlanta didn't really go off. I mean, Drake London had like 5 catches for 60-something yards, and Mooney had 5 catches for like 80-something yards. They weren't the reason. They did get open at critical times on third downs. Drew Phillips in the middle of the field gave up some completions, as did Adoree Jackson. But not too bad. It was really the running game that killed the Giants, and not to mention the pick sixes again, so that's more on the offense. But yeah, the secondary, the corners didn't play too badly. Banks, he had 3 tackles. He had a couple of tackles where he really should have been. He's a big corner. He can't be missed tackling. But he did have one play where he got called for the pass interference. But I was actually okay with that because he actually played the ball. The guy has 0 ball skills, it seems like. And that time he actually played the ball, but he got it too handsy and too grabby. So he interfered with the receiver right before the play came, which and he just kept his hands off him, and when he made the play, it was an excellent play. So hope to see more of that going forward. Even if he gets penalized, I just want to see, because he never really gets totally toasted on coverage. He just doesn't play the ball. So if I'm a quarterback and I'm the opposing team, I attack him all day long until he learns, even if he's covering a guy, until he learns how to play the ball. Teams are going to probably be doing that moving forward. So, but he is such a talent. So obviously the Giants, you're not giving up on that, but you just hated to see that he had a second season regression after a very solid rookie year. Cordell Flott gave up a few completions. However, he did have, I think he had 4 tackles or so. He had 5 tackles, and he got only the 3rd interception of the year with a nice return, about a 30-yard return, 20-something yard return after catching it on the goal line. The Atlanta tight end Kyle Pitts basically bobbled it to him. Although Cordell Flott gave up some completions, I was really pleased in that he is getting more physical, and he's playing, as slight as he is of build, he is playing more physical, and he's tackling better. So moving forward, I'm looking forward to Cordell Flott playing well next year. So I think he's one of the few Giants whose game progressed, unlike Deonte Banks, whose game degressed. So I'm happy with Cordell Flott, and I think there's something there for sure. As far as Drew Phillips, rookie Drew Phillips, 6 tackles. I mean, he just plays excellent, and he had a tackle for a loss. He gave up a few completions, 4 completions, but he's such a good tackler. He's such a physical guy. The only thing I worry about is that he maybe plays too tough for his size, but man, he is just so fun to watch. So and Adoree Jackson had a couple of tackles. He gave up a few completions as well. But Adoree Jackson's still playing pretty solid overall, so I am pleased with his game. I was okay with the way I thought they played average, but I was pleased with the tackling, especially Drew Phillips and Cordell Flott. Flott, it's surprising. Drew Phillips, he's just been par for the course with his excellent rookie tackling corner. Now, as far as the safeties are concerned, Dane Belton had a solid game. He had I want to say 8 tackles. How many did he have? Yeah. He had 8 tackles. He had a good game. 6 tackles, and he had a pass defense. So, yeah, he seems to be improving game to game. The first game he started, it was like, oof, it looked rough out there. But, yeah, he's getting better. Unfortunately, a lot of his tackles are downfield because, again, he has to evade and he has to take on blocks, because the defensive line is not holding their ground, much less getting any penetration. So, but yeah, Dane Belton looks solid. It was nice to see him get a pass defense. He's got ball skills, unlike Deonte Banks. So I'm looking forward to hopefully as they get better overall as a defense. I think Dane Belton will definitely make more plays on the ball, and I think he's part of the future. As I don't want to see him starting, but I like him as a rotational safety and as a backup safety. As far as Jason Pinnock's concerned, Pinnock had a decent game. He had 8 tackles. He had 1 tackle for a loss. He didn't get lost in coverage. It didn't seem to. There were no deep passes. Atlanta didn't complete any deep passes, so that's credit to the safeties. And Pinnock had a good game. No big plays, which you kind of hope you'd see him. But it was glad to see him not having missed tackles, which he had happened the last couple of games. And Raheem Lane played, and he got 3 tackles. He was newly activated off the practice squad. And didn't look good or bad. So if he doesn't get noticed, that's not a bad thing. So nobody that he was responsible for, or at least I think was responsible for, seemed to get targeted. So at least, that's the best you can ask for. Someone just their first game in is not to get beaten badly and to make the tackles when the opportunities are there. So, and that's about it. That was it for the safeties. Only those 3 safeties. On special teams, no field goal attempts. The 1 touchdown, the extra point was made. Our punter averaged about 45 yards or 43 yards a kick. Nothing bad. There was a partially blocked punt. Not too bad. He managed to make the adjustment. At that point, the game was over, so I guess it wasn't as big a deal. Kickoff coverage was solid. Punt coverage was good. There was only 1 punt return. Atlanta didn't get any kickoffs. No, they got 1. It was just a touchback, so no kickoffs. But their punt return, Art Green, got down nicely as the gunner and completely missed the tackle that the Atlanta punt returner got to have a decent return on. So you don't want to see him missing it. He gets free like that. You want to see him make a great play and possibly draw the ball loose. So bad mistake by Art Green. But Art Green's a player I still like moving forward with. So that's about it, Giants fans. Unfortunately, everything I think of, every player I review their game, I'm thinking it basically not how much they did this game, but how they'll look in the future, and do they have a future in the 2025 roster? So, and Art Green, I finish up with, I think he's got a future with this team. So that's it, Giants fans. Hang in there. I know there's 2 games left. We have the first pick in the draft, but I don't want them tanking. I don't think they're not going to tank. They're not going to purposely lose games. That'd be ridiculous. However, I would like to see the coaching staff play some of the backups. I know Tyrone Tracy got hurt. Drew Lock got hurt a little bit in this game. So I wouldn't mind next week if they started possibly Tim Boyle. I don't want them to go back to DeVito. I think it's pretty obvious Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock are not going to be on this team next year. And Tim Boyle, who knows? I'm more open to him being on the team than not. So we'll see I believe, if I had to take a guess, I actually think they're going to get fired. I don't think they could give this regime a 4th year. Not with one of the worst seasons ever. I hope the Giants can finish the last 2 games with the young players developing. That's all I'm kind of really hoping for now, and hoping our really good players like Malik Neighbors doesn't get hurt. You'd hate to see the guy get hurt, blow out a knee, on the 16th game of the season and then have to get off-season knee surgery or something like that. So hang in there, Giants fans. Root for the Giants. Keep fighting. I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care, Giants fans.